This is Michelle Goldman with AOC2, Term 1402, and Project Week 2. For my application this week, I created a flower app, which, that's what I was doing last week. Just slight deviations and additions for what the project requirements were for Project 2. My view controller, in the main header file, we've got the outlets for all the buttons. So we've got our 3 buttons here, which are 3 buttons here. I actually loaded the images and then did something different and put the images of the leaves in different colors, and those are actually the buttons to select each one. So I've got that. Flower label, which I actually had something in there and I took it out. I just forgot to take that piece out. The text field, which is here, where it's going to show the change in the quantity, and then also when you run the calculation. The stepper control, which is here, and then the label I had for the stepper control, because I thought it was supposed to be go to that separately, and then I thought in the instructions I had read that it was supposed to go to the text field and overwrite that. That was, I think, the YouTube video reference that was listed in the project, and so that's what I had done. Hopefully that's okay. Then my different actions, show info. So when I click here on the info button, it takes me to the second view, or my info view, which are my files for that, and then close brings me back to the main view controller. So that is my show info action. Then of course the on click, which is going to be used when one of the flowers is selected. The stepper, which is here, and run calc is the actual calculation, and then the change background to account for the 3 different colors. And so just to demonstrate that very quickly, those are background colors, and I will come in and show that in the implementation file. I actually put that at the very bottom, since that option is at the bottom of my screen. The segmented control, and just if-else statements, changing the background color based on the tag for each of these segments, 0, 1, and 2, so that when one is selected, it's just going to change to that color. Okay, so that is the that requirement for having 3 different background colors. We'll come back up to the top. Show info, that's my action to load the second view, the info view controller, which just takes us to that view, which here's our XIB, the info view, and it's going to load that. That's what that looks like, and that's really just the action for the on close, so that when you get to that you can actually close it, and then just the action here in the implementation file just to dismiss the current view. That is that part of the project. So being able to change the buttons and selecting one and disabling the others. So if I click on this one, it looks like it's not selectable anymore, and it's not. And you see that shows the Snapdragon is selected, but the other 2 are still available. So I can click on Alamanda, Alamanda selected, Snapdragon is now re-enabled, and also Lantana is available as well. So that part is working, and didn't have too many problems with that. It's based off of the button tag numbers, and feeding that information back into that text field up here. And that part was pretty easy. the stepper button, which is right here. And then the biggest issue I had was trying to figure out what to call this. That's one of my hurdles, is trying to figure out an application with all the pieces and requirements, and how each of those pieces will relate and tie in so that they make sense. So I think that's one of my biggest hurdles that I struggle with. So here's our stepper control, where it's going to take the current value and relate that into the step control value, which is the name of our stepper, and then feed that out to the text field. So if I click here, it's going to increase and show what that quantity is, or reduce. I thought that from one of the video references that's where it was supposed to go, is feed up in here as opposed to a label. So that could be incorrect. So then for the big piece, the calculation, to calculate bloom time, so for each different type of flower based off of different factors, we would calculate what the expected bloom time is per year, per season for that flower, and then we can increase the number of seasons to multiply with the original factors, and that would increase the bloom time. So we'll be able to click on Snapdragon, and let's say we have 4 selected, and then calculate bloom time. And for that calculation, that was factoring the drought tolerance. So with a drought tolerance of 4, it will yield 8 months based off of the current calculation. And if I select Lantana, actually let's go to Alamanda, and we'll just reduce that, calculate bloom time. So deadheading 3 times yields 9 months. So hopefully that all is correct, and here we've just got pulling in the value from the stepper control, so that'll factor in, and then equating the button that is enabled, and then pulling from the factory, setting the number of times for deadheading for this one, calculating the bloom time, and then creating that calculation here, and then feeding it through to the text field. And then of course have to account for whether or not the other buttons are enabled at the same time. And then just repeat the same thing for the Lantana flower, and then for the Snapdragon. It just has different variables, but it's all pretty much the same formula or pattern. And that is the app.